My advice would be to NATO, I said it already and I'll say it briefly again, bring NATO and the European Union as close together as possible. The relationship, once qualified by me as a frozen conflict, and not everybody in Europe liked that, I must admit, but it is a frozen conflict. NATO and European Union ambassadors cannot talk to each other. The two organizations compete with each other from time to time, and that is also having more than 20 allies who are at the same time members of NATO and members of the European Union. That is an unsustainable situation. So my plea, ladies and gentlemen, is bring the European Union and NATO as close together as possible. Your administrations, plural, President George W. Bush and also very much President Obama, have recognized the European Union as a very important European entity. So long past are the times when also from the capital of your beautiful nation, Washington, one looked with a special eye and from time to time a not very confident eye to the European Union. The European Union is there to stay, NATO is there to stay. Let the two work as closely together as possible. The relationship between myself and Javier Solana as High Representative of the European Union were excellent. The relationship between Cathy Ashton, the High Representative of the European Union, and my successor, Anders Fogh Rasmussen, are excellent. But politically, there is a lot to do. Almost finally, let us also to be smart on what is happening and going to happen in Afghanistan. Yesterday we saw again, or the day before, horrible attacks in Kabul by the Taliban, Haqqani network / we don't exactly know. But there should not be too much uncertainty who did this. Let's be smart. We've been there now for more than a decade. And speaking now as a keen observer of newspapers, radio and television, it is for me a bit unclear in the run-up to the Chicago summit if NATO operations are going to end in 2013 or 2014. It is not entirely clear to me when combat operations are going to end. It's not entirely clear to me what will happen in Afghanistan after 2014. Will there be a residual combat capacity in Afghanistan? Special forces? I think yes. Should that be exclusively a task performed by the United States of America? I think no. But this will be a debate at the Chicago summit, I can guarantee. And it's an important one because you cannot just in 2014 leave Afghanistan and close the door behind you. Too much, I say again, political and human capital has been invested in that operation. And it has not been easy. And it is certainly not an unqualified success. But I've been there almost 20 times in the time I was Secretary General of NATO, and I can tell you a lot has been achieved. Let not just close the door behind us. And let NATO try to keep the solidarity it has shown, because all NATO members participated in Afghanistan, not to abandon that nation after 2014. Help the United States of America finance the Afghan National Army and the Afghan National Police. See that there is a residual fighting capability. And pay attention. My plea to the heads of state and government coming to Chicago in a few weeks would be, see that you come to some form of a regional arrangement. History in Afghanistan proves that it has always been used, that beautiful nation, as a pawn to serve the interest of other bigger neighbors and other nations. Now, the much regretted Dick Holbrooke, who passed away last year, and I can say he was a great friend of mine, went out of his way with Pakistan and other nations to see if some form of a political arrangement would not be possible after 2014. Mark Grossman, also an outstanding US diplomat, is now trying to do the same. Let's not forget again, remember my words about a political NATO, the political environment. We cannot just leave Afghanistan all alone after 2014. And we have at least to convince Pakistan that it is part of the solution and not part of the problem. Pakistan is the most important nation for stability in Afghanistan, but let me also mention the Russian Federation. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, let me also mention Iran. That nation can cause a lot of mischief in Afghanistan, which they have done in the recent past. A regional political arrangement, in other words, is of great importance. And I do realize, before closing, I do realize, ladies and gentlemen, that it is extremely difficult to convince public opinion, certainly in Europe, but also to a large extent here in the United States, to explain to public opinion that this nation and what happens there matters to our security. We have great difficulty in the Netherlands to convince Parliament that they should stay committed, and the Dutch, I'm afraid, are not an exception here.